more details, as it is very important for us to understand this glass menagerie in order to make it more understandable. How could it be made understandable is the question. Now we will try to analyze the character of Laura. We have not done this yet. We have not done yet to understand the character of Laura. Very, very important for the examination purpose of it. You should be careful about this character. Laura's character, Laura is presented as an extremely shy and sensitive person who cannot reveal her plans, her way of action to anybody because she is very shy. And if a character is very shy, and that to a girl, naturally whatever he thinks, she thinks around of the world around her. She can explain that world too, because that world also becomes not properly explained. Here we'll make a character analysis of Laura, Tom, and Amanda together. So, which is the most important of the three? Sometimes such a question is asked in the university exam. So, when we have to write the most important one, which is important of the three, character analysis of Laura Wingfield. Laura is presented as an extremely shy and sensitive person. Her shyness goes from, comes from her own way. Probably she might not understand the shyness, but her shyness is always there. Wherein lies the shyness may be a question. And there is something, the sort of introvert nature in her that makes her so complex a character. And it is for this reason that Laura's character is very important for the examination, from the examination point of view. Laura is presented as an extremely shy and sensitive person. Her shyness is emphasized even more by being contrasted with Amanda's forceful and almost brutal nature. We are made aware almost immediately of Laura's overly sensitive nature. She is so nervous that she cannot even attend business school without becoming violently sick. She is frightened and nervous. So when Tom and Amanda quarrel, she possesses a glass menagerie which she cares for with great tenderness, and she has drawn, withdrawn from the world, a withdrawal from what is real into what is make believe. Unicorn cannot be a believable animal. It is a make believe concept of Laura. Laura has slightly physical defect, a limp, but she has magnified this limp until it has affected her entire personality. So Laura's oversensitive nature makes her think that everyone notices her limp. It becomes for her a huge stumbling block to normal living. She cannot get over it and into the real world. Her inability to understand that whether she is right or wrong is another question you might ask. That is she able to understand wherein lies the inability to follow her own self? So, you see, by sharing Laura's point of view, sometimes we get perplexed. We try to understand the problems of Laura. The question of understanding Laura is not the question. Laura's defect that has caused her this uneasiness, her inability to overcome this defect, causes her to withdraw into a world of illusion. The limp then becomes symbolic of Laura's inner nature. As Tom says, it is not just Laura's being crippled that makes her different, but she's just different. So she lives in a world of old phonograph records and glass animals. And then the gentleman caller arrives. For the first time, we see Laura's inner charm. She is fresh and pretty, and she does not have charm, not as Amanda wants it, but in an individualistic way. She is even capable of forgetting her physical handicap. She responds to Jim because he responds to her difference. With Jim, she sees that the difference is an asset and not a handicap. But ironically, she leads Jim more into her world than she enters into his. Thus, when the evening is over, when the unicorn is broken and the hopes are shattered, Laura does not have to retreat back into her world because she has never left it sufficiently enough to necessitate the retreat. Quite the contrary now that the unicorn is broken, is ordinary like Jim. She sends it forth with Jim, and she remains in her unique world with the unique glass animals. Now, if in this respect again we are comparing the character analysis of Tom Wingfield. Tom Wingfield was a potentially creative character caught in a conventional materialistic world. He was free from who had to curb his wings by working at a dreaded and disliked job in a shoe warehouse. Tom had been working in a shoe warehouse. Tom had his own independent world, composed of those things he considered important. His poetry, his dreams, his freedom, his adventure, his illusions, all these things were in direct opposition to his mother's world. But Tom's conflict was between his world and the realistic world. He was realist enough to recognize his mother's plight. He knew that his mother's dreams of gentlemen callers were false. He recognized that he had no future with the warehouse, and he knew that he had to act with the pity or else be destroyed as a sensitive being. He was forced then to leave his mother and sister or to be destroyed and consumed by the world of illusions, deception, and withdrawal. For years, Tom had sought escape from Amanda's nagging inquisition and command by attending movies almost nightly. This was his search for adventure. So movies was adventure to Tom. But Tom was soon to realize that he was watching adventure rather than living it. He realized also that the movies and drinking were only momentary psychological escapes. Movies are psychological escapes. He used movies as a type of advantage to compensate for his own dull life and to escape from the nagging reminders of his everyday life. He needed escape from Amanda's domineering instruction as how to eat, when to eat, what to eat, how to quit smoking, how to improve himself, what to read, and so forth. So when she began confiscating the books which he had brought home, his life became almost intolerable. If Amanda could not appreciate the greatness of an established creative man, genius you can say, his own creative endeavors would never be understood or appreciated. Finally, when Tom tries to make his mother see what he is different from her, that he is not an exact reproduction of his own ideas, Amanda rejects the things which Tom stands for. Tom contended that man is by instinct a lover, a hunter, and a fighter. These are qualities which Amanda's husband had possessed, and she refused to recognize these qualities as decent. Therefore, Tom could only recognize his own instinctual drives by leaving home. Tom therefore acted with a painful honesty by committing himself to a life that excluded the shoe warehouse, the inert audience in movie houses, in cinema houses, where where there is the direct screen that offered him a different world and a direct and inner waiting contact with his family. Tom, being aware of the boiling within himself, knew that he had to act quickly or else he stifled by his environment. So he realized that his own creative abilities and his sensitivity were being destroyed by his surroundings. Furthermore, he knew that if he didn't act, he would suffer regret, unhappiness, and a complete deterioration of his natural creative abilities. Tom's rejections of his family was not a selfish, egocentric escape. Instead, Tom recognized that he must escape in order to save himself. It was a means of self preservation. He knew that if he stayed, he would be destroyed as a man and as an artist. But as a man and artist and as a sensitive individual, he has never been able to forget his life and especially the delicate charm and loveliness of his sister. So, if we analyze the character of Amanda Wingfield lives in a world that fluctuates between illusion and reality. When it is convenient to her, she simply closes her eyes to the brutal, realistic world. She uses various escape mechanisms in order to endure her present position in life. This happens to everyone's life when they want to escape reality. They find a reality for themselves, an illusion for themselves. So when life in this tenement would become unbearable, she recalls the days of her youth when she lived at Blue Mountain and had 17 gentlemen callers in one Sunday afternoon. Indeed, this story has been told so often that it is no longer an illusion and instead has become a reality. She likewise indulges in playful games so as to escape the drudgery of everyday living. So all the characters we find that they live in that drudgery in some sort of the other. And they want to escape from drudgery by taking to something else, which is unbelievable by any ordinary people or life. She tells Laura, you be the lady by this time, and I will be Darky. So she refuses to. So she refers to her as having her only a slight physical defect. She refuses to accept the fact that Tom is quite different from her and that he, like his father, will someday leave in search of adventure. So, adventure is also Tom's way of life. And finally, Amanda lives perpetually in the world of the gentleman callers, who will appear any day to sweep Laura off her feet. But she is unable to live forever in this world of illusion. It is not possible that you can live in the world of illusion. The pressures of everyday living folks her to face many unpleasant facts. Chief among these is the position of Laura. As she tells Laura, I know so well what becomes of unmarried women who aren't prepared to occupy your position. It is true. Even if she fails to acknowledge Laura's defect, she is realist enough to understand Laura's difficult position. Furthermore, she has seen the letter that Tom received from the merchant marine and knows that he will soon be leaving in the merchant for the merchant navy. Facing these brutal facts, she makes Tom arrange to have the gentleman caller arrive. But Amanda is full of other paradoxes. She wants only the best of her children, but then she fails to understand that what they must want is quite different from what she wants for them. She does gear her whole life toward their happiness because she doesn't want them to make the same mistake that she made, and yet in devoting herself to them, she has made herself overbearing and nagging. Amanda's refusal to see that her children are quite different from her causes her many uncomfortable moments. She cannot understand why Laura cannot develop charm and gaiety, but Amanda's idea of charm differs vastly from that of Laura's idea. Amanda can at any moment turn on a volley of chatter, be exceptionally lively and gay. That means she can talk a lot. Laura, on the other hand, lives in a quiet, sensitive world, the world of her own. But Amanda possesses strong attributes. She does devote herself to her children. She does possess a great determination and strength. Many women could not have survived under the same situation. When she thinks a gentleman caller is coming, she sets herself to the task of preparation with a determination that cannot be equated in her children. If in the final analysis she is seen as giddy and frivolous, it is because life has passed her by. When her husband deserted her, she found herself faced with an empty and meaningless life. She then began to fabricate things which to fill her life. She devoted herself too much to her children and began to live through her children. Since she was reliving her own life, she failed to understand the different personalities that her children possessed ended up during the term away from home. Thus, we find Amanda is a person who lives alternately between a world of illusion and a world of reality. Both the worlds she has taken into her possession of her thought. This fluctuation between these two worlds is the only defense against the boredom and emptiness of living. So, if we finally assess the characters, it is something like this. When Tennis William created Tom Wingfield, he pulled a neat trick. He created a character who exists outside and inside the play action at the same time. When you see him standing on the fire escape, adjoining the Wingfield apartment, Tom is the editor. He's outside the action. He's a seasoned merchant sailor who traveled on both land and sea. He's a good talker too, the kind you might like to spend an evening with over a few beers. BWERS. He can be funny as when he describes his runaway father as a telephone man who fell in love with the long distances. One actor's reading of Tom Illnines can give you the impression that Tom regrets being a wanderer. Another actor can create the sense that Tom looks back with relief, pleased that he broke away at least from his mother. Regardless of the interpretation you favor, you know that Laura, Tom's sister, has a firm hold on his affections. Oh, Laura, Laura, he says in the play's final speech, I tried to leave you behind, but I am more faithful than I intended to be. So, evidently, memory is a potent force, one that Tom can't escape. Or looking at Tom's character yet another way, you might conclude that he has stepped beyond the bonds of a brotherly concern for Laura into a more forbidding relationship. Because the whole play is Tom's memory brought to life on the stage. Tom may be most important character. However, you could make a case for Amanda's importance as well. Either way, Tom sets the sentimental mood of the play and reveals only what he wants you to know about his family. If Amanda narrated the play, can you imagine how different it would be? A totally different way of approach the play would have attended. Tom calls himself a poet. He writes poetry at every opportunity. You hear poetic speeches pour from his lips. A coal walker at the warehouse calls him Shakespeare. Does it deserve the name? Do any of his speeches sound like poetry to you? Narration Tom claims a poet's weakness for symbols. In fact, the story bulges with symbols of all kinds. Some obvious, the little glass animals signifying Laura, some more obscure, frequent references to rainbows, for example. For a full discussion of symbolism in the play, you have to see the symbol section that I have already given in this discussion. You really see Tom in a cheerful mood. He complains, groans, gulps, sulks, SULKS, argues or pokes fun at others, especially at Amanda, a very peculiar type of character, who gets enjoyment from doing some such things. He bristles under her constant nagging. He quarrels about inviting home a beau for Laura. Most of all, he is repelled by Amanda's repeated references to her long ago past. Why do Amanda's stories bother him so? Is it real typical of children listening to parents recount tales of their youth? Yes, of course it does so. It often happens that sometimes parents tell about stories which do affect the members of the family. Tom's resentful manner leads his mother to accuse him of having a temperament like a metropolitan, means opera star. Does Amanda have a point? Is Tom preoccupied with pleasing himself? Or do you sympathize with Tom? Tom's obligation seems to tear him apart. He's caught between responsibilities to his family and to himself. In short, he faces a dilemma that is often part of growing up, which, in your opinion, ought to take precedence: family responsibilities of personal ambition. To cope with frustration and pain, Tom sometimes uses bitter humor. When Amanda accuses him of leading a shameful life, he knows it is futile to argue. So he jokes with his mother about his second identity as Killer Wingfield and El Diablo, El Diablo, the prince of the underworld. Or when Amanda is about to start reminiscing about Blue Mountains, he comments ironically to Laura, I know what is coming. Humor provides only a little relief. However, that is why he rushes off to the movies whenever he can. Watching someone else's adventures on the movie screen offers Tom another diversion from his own very existence. We know of many such characters who enjoy the movies or the operas because they don't find in themselves those characteristics what they find in the movies or in the operas. But since he has to come out of dark theater and face life again, escape to the movies solves no problem. At great cost, Tom learns that running away from problems never clears them from your mind. Even when he flees St. Louis, he takes along his memories as mental baggage. He can't escape the past, however hard he tries. Escape, he discovers in the end, is an illusion. Too. Tom, what Tom tells you as he stands at the edge of the stage may be more than just a story of one young man's disillusion. You might think of Tom as a representative of a whole generation of young people coming of age just as worlds exploding into war. They have high hopes and high dreams, but the future they wish for never comes. It is destroyed by forces beyond their control. The world is lit by lightning, Tom says. Probably he's right. His way of thinking makes him right. The world is lit by lightning. Tom's story then may be both personal and generally symbolic of life at a bleak time in our history. So you can read it either way. Now, Amanda Wingfield, who's still yet to be analyzed with the characters, in the production notes of The Glass Menagerie, Dennis William tells you that Amanda is a little woman of great but confused vitality clinging frantically to another time and place. There is much to admire in Amanda, and as much to love and pity as there is to laugh at. Do you agree? Do you find it as difficult to bear as Tom does? In contrast to Tom, who sets the mood in the play, Amanda is a mover, the character who sets the story into motion. Therefore, you might consider her the play's main character. So, throughout the play, Tom, Laura, and Jim respond to Amanda's stimulating and complex personality. Even a husband who has run from her showed a distinctive response to Amanda. Tom shares a few tender moments with his mother, but more typically, he is put off by her scolding and nagging. Laura, unlike her brother, usually obeys Amanda's wishes and tries to understand her. Jim, during dinner with the Wingfields, is caught up by Amanda's vibrant cheerfulness. What are you likely to remember most people about Amanda? Is it an irrational and inappropriate belief in the romantic past? It may be, or might it be a pathetic conviction that the children are bound to succeed in life because of their natural endowments. She refused to accept the fact that Tom is a malcontent with a dead and end job. As for Laura, Amanda denies that the daughter has anything wrong with her, that a little charm and a typing course won't fix. Even Jim O'Connor, quite an ordinary young man, strikes Amanda as a shining prince, destined to rescue and marry Laura. Amanda's wishes for her children sometimes leave her blind to reality. So, to understand Amanda, you should decide whether she's really as far as she often appears. Is she unaware of the fact, or she simply refused to accept it? Despite her frequent silliness, she evidently has a practical streak. She thinks seriously about the future. That is why she presses Tom to bring him home a friend for Laura. Obviously, Amanda acts foolish much of the time, but she nevertheless has admirable qualities. Amanda tries hard to be a good mother. After a husband runs off, not second husband, after husband runs off, she does the best she can do to provide for her family. Above all, she's strong, stronger than Tom, and stronger than her husband. When all her efforts have failed, she by Laura. She emerges tender and noble, and you can depend on her never to give up hope. At the end of the play, with Tom en route to the seven seas and Laura broken-hearted over Jim, Amanda shows dignity and tragic beauty. What, in your opinion, is the source of Amanda's transformation? Or might be she had dignity and tragic beauty within her all along? So, Laura Wingfield, it is more than coincidental that the play title refers to the collection of glass animals that belongs to Laura, Menagerie. She is so fragile that she can hardly function in the real world. Not surprisingly, a favorite figure in the menagerie is the unicorn, a creature which Laura calls freakish because it is not a living creature. It is a figurine and nothing more than that. It is not available in anywhere around the world, which is precisely the way Laura has felt much of her life. Can you think of other qualities of the uniform that resemble Laura? Laura frequently escapes to a private imaginary world, occupied by a fragile animal, glass animal. So when you consider Laura's personality, can you speculate on why the menagerie is glass rather than some other material? Of the three winged feeds, Laura stands in the greatest peril, for she lacks both the strength of Amanda and the potential to escape, like Tom. Laura creates the impression that she is forever going to be a misfit. The world is simply too harsh for her. She confesses how to him, Jim, how awkward she felt in high school. She wore a brace on her legs and believed that everyone in school noticed her, clumping around. As people grow older, they usually overcome feelings of shyness. Why didn't Laura? In spite of her fragility, though Laura is the most serene member of the family, she leaves the worrying to Amanda and Tom. Sometimes she may remind you of a child who creates havoc and doesn't know it. In her innocence, Laura doesn't realize how Tom and Amanda bleed for her. It is impossible to think of Laura as a merely timid, neurotic little girl, totally absorbed in her own troubles. But can you find more substance in her character? Is she sensitive to Amanda and to Tom in any way? Does she contribute to the well being of the family? You may not have to search far to find likable and unsympathetic traits in Laura's personality. So Laura hides in her make believe world. Make believe world is the menagerie world. Only once during him O'Connor's visit does she venture out of it into the world of reality. Jim has given Laura a bit of a self confidence. He even convinces her to dance with him. During the dance, they bump the table, knocking the glass unicorn to the floor and breaking off its single horn. Do you see the symbolism of this mishap? There is a symbolism, of course. Laura, for a short time, feels like any other girl who has been swept off her feet by the boy of her dreams. Unfortunately for Laura, though, the time of her life lasts no more than a few minutes. From the above observation of the characters that we have discussed so long, all the three characters from every point of view appears to be most important of the three. Tom leaves home for good, and the thoughts of Laura haunts his memory. So Laura is an important character for her. Is he plagued by guilt, Tom? Plagued by guilt? Does he love her more than a brother should? Does Laura have claimed that they have forgotten under his skin? So, so many questions might arise. You might be thinking that what you are thinking, but always what you think is not rightly thought because your way of thinking is different from the way of thinking of the many characters that involves in a novel.